What's going on, everyone? Today, I'm here to talk to you about BIATL 2, the 12K event that happened this weekend. The dust has finally settled. I'm way more rested than I was yesterday, and it's time to talk about what happened. Overall, it was a great event. I had so much fun with all the players. It was incredible to see all of the talent that came from all the teams all over the country, some of the locals that came that aren't on a team, and even some people that aren't on a team that made the trip. Anyway, I really, really had a great time playing everyone. I think, yeah, outside of the rematch I had later in the event, none of these players I played before at an event, and which is kind of impressive because I feel like I end up playing a lot of good players. I typically do well, but somehow I've dodged all of these incredibly talented players until this event, which was part of why I was so excited to play. So we played in the 3v3 event to kick off the tournament on Friday. We flew in at like midnight on Thursday. Um, I was on a team with Tyler Mersing and Philip Samuelson from McClunky Gaming. We were team Golden Saja Boys, and it did not go particularly well for us overall. But I mean, Phil traveled like 22 hours from Europe at the end of the day. By the time he rested his head, it was like 22 hours of travel, no sleep. And, we traveled in super late on Thursday, so we only got a couple hours ourselves. The event started at like 8 a.m., I think, on Friday. So, we were all in bed by like 2 ish, up at 6, and raring to go at 8. So it was a tough one. I know a lot of people were feeling similarly in terms of how tired they were for that one, but I tried to play around Tyler and Phillips' wants and needs for this one, um, and that created a really interesting deck building process. Because if you don't know, this one was trilogy format, whereas the last event was a little bit less restrictive on the card pool. I think it was just like leaders and bases couldn't overlap. But in this one, it was full trilogy. So we had 3 copies of any card for all 3 decks, plus the leaders and bases could not overlap as well. And that created a really interesting challenge with set 6 on what to play, what we thought the meta was going to be like. Um, and Philip, having done so well in Bilbao in the limited format, never got to play his deck that he prepped so much for in the Premier version. He took top 4 in limited, never ended up getting to play a single round of Premier. So he really wanted to play Harmon Green, and that's kind of how we built the team around Phil for the most part. We thought Hantu Blue was crazy good, so we knew we wanted that on the team, and that really like pinched the pool quite a bit, right? We have a resupply deck. We have a deck using Blue Leader and Falcon and Kellerin Beck, so that kind of just eliminates any other green hero deck. And then Tyler taking kind of all the best cards from the other pool was fine because we wanted the best 2 decks, right? The third deck was like we're gonna try and steal some wins with it, but I didn't want to sacrifice any power from the 2 decks that they wanted to play. For a while, the third deck was going to be like some hyper aggressive negotiations deck. I was testing like a Spark of Rebellion, Cassian double red, Dedra double red, like anything I could slam that card into, I was brewing. And then it just became, you know what? Han 2 uses this card so well, so we put some in there. I knew I wanted a Nemec deck because that is a crazy card. And unfortunately, given Phil wanting to play Han Green, I couldn't play my main event deck for the 3v3. So the Nemec ended up in Han 2 Blue in our version, which I still stand by. I think we needed Nemec in our comp. It's just way too good. So I had Tyler put the Nemec in his list, and then the aggressive negotiations went in as well. And from there, I was left with what I thought would counter the meta. I expected a lot of people's third deck to be Cad Tarkentown. So I went with Bosk ECL. Aptly name it fucking damn it because I did not want to play it. But I thought it gave me the best shot at pinching the Cad Tarkentown, which is a pretty good matchup into the other decks that we took, specifically Han. So if we could have Han dodge the Cads, I could get basically a free win, is what it often felt like. Um, I still played quite a bit of space between the main and side, obviously. So I also felt pretty good into a lot of space aggro. Um, and yeah, this is what I ended up playing. Um, and the goal was to kind of seat me first in most regards and like let me feast unless they had a Cad Bane on the team and maybe make them make that mistake of sitting it first or sitting it across from me. Maybe they didn't understand just how bad the matchup was. So that was the goal. This is what I played. Only a handful of new cards. I think the Hunting Droid Assassin is really good in here. Um, it's a bounty hunter for Toro. It deals extra damage when things are damaged on the opponent's side, which you can do pretty easily with all the bounties. I played one of the new punishing ones, which is a really kind of crazy ECL target for these colors. One sudden ferocity for a pretty good flip turn. And the sideboard, I threw in some Chancellor Palpatines for aggro, so that when I flip Bosk, I get double Sentinel for 3 and still have room to play Bounty Hunter's Quarry, which I can double trigger, and 1-drops and things like that. So that was the reasoning behind the list. Wasn't an ideal situation for me, but I really wanted to have the 2 strongest decks being played, and I did feel like Hanwhan Green was quite good, and Hantu Blue is and was kind of crazy. So that was our team comp, and then we get into the event. How did we do with all our sleep deprivation? Well, round 1, we ended into. I'll move myself here. We got into Bonthan Lego Pizza Team. So we sat, I believe we sat Phil first. Yes, I think that's what we ended up doing. We won the initiative here, so we sat Philip first. Because while the Hantu matchup is sometimes hard, we felt Philip had felt pretty good overall into it. So, we didn't want to like give up our Hantu Blue matchup right away. Or no, did we make them? I think in this one actually we made them sit first and they sat their Hantu Blue is what ended up happening. So our discussion ended up being, what do we do from here? Do we do the mirror, which Tyler feels pretty good into, or do we put Phil there because he was doing really well in testing against the deck? That's not something we wanted me to play. We would probably just let me get feasted by Piet or Quinlan at that point, and then take the Hantu Blue into Quinlan or Piet. So we ended up sitting Phil there, thinking he could take it, and then Piet took Tyler and Cluis took me. Was how they ended up counterpicking that. So yeah, I lost to Cluis pretty quickly 2-0, which made sense for me. Again, someone I've never played. The only time we've ever matched has been in the final round of a PQ where we were able to just draw into the top 8, and then we didn't match in the top 8. So it was my first time playing Cluis, and that was fun. Tyler then beat Ian on Piet Red, which was a hard matchup, but we got there. And then I think in tight 3 games, their Tyler ended up taking down Phil. Might have even been 2-0, honestly, but it was just a longer game. I think it was a longer game 1. So that was a bit of a bummer. Things didn't pan out. We probably should have just sat me first and went from there, but that's how it goes. Then in round 2, we ended up against a team. I don't remember their names. Honestly, they were not a part of like a major team, and yeah, it was just kind of a blur to me. I even had to try and really remember what they were playing. So I sat across from Sabine. We had initiative this time. We sat Tyler first because their lineup was a little strange, and I felt like Tyler could beat them all. And so we just would sit Tyler first, let them sit whoever, and then, or no, again, my God, it's been a few days. We let them sit first. Well, they chose sat first because they won the die roll here. So they sat the Mothma green first, and I felt like we should just take what we felt like a free win there with Hantu Blue, and then Phil felt like he could beat either. And again, it was making them make the mistake and putting Cat into me for a clean 3-0. They did not want to do that, so I got the Sabine Data Vault, who ended up beating me. On to Blue on Tyler ended up beating the Mon Mothma Green pretty quickly, and then Phil took out the Cat Tarkentown pretty quickly after that. And that was that round. It moved pretty fast. All 3 were done pretty quickly, hence why I don't really remember their names because we really didn't play each other all that long. It was like 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Everyone 2-0'd each other. Then around 3, we ended up against one of the KTOD teams, Ryan DeSearcy's team with Josh Everly and Sonny D. This time we took the opposite approach and just sat me first because I felt like I had an okay matchup into Kylo and Luke, and we would just roll the dice on what they chose to do. And I really wanted to give the other two their preferred matchup of the other two matchups in this one. I was like, let me get feasted on by Han1 or whatever they choose to do, and we'll go from there. They ended up sitting the Luke Data Vault, and Ryan, after the match, because I was done first, I won that 2-0 very fast. Didn't realize they didn't assume I was playing that much space, and I was obviously playing the punishing ones, the Eager Escort fighters in the side, the Ruthless Raiders, the Devastators. Like I think I had one Fang in the main. Like there was so much stuff that both games Luke had to deploy on the ground, and yeah, it was tough for him. Then Sonny clutched a crazy game against Tyler. That was 2-1 for him. Our turn 1 resource decision ended up costing us there pretty heavily in game 3. We resourced aggressive negotiations because Tyler's mulligan was a little clunky. It was like double Luke aggressive negotiations. I think Ogdo Bogdo and like an entrenched, and then we just kept drawing like entrenched and freaking Bo-Katans and stuff. So the aggressive ended up getting resourced so that we could keep playing units, and then we had lethal from pretty far away, thanks to aggressive, but we never found the second one, so that was a bummer. And then I believe, yeah, Josh to beat Phil 2-1 pretty convincingly overall. That third game wasn't particularly close. It just took a bit because game 1 was pretty close if I recall, but Phil ended up losing that one and winning the second game. So we were out and we dropped. We chose not to keep playing. We chose to just kind of reset. And pool 1 was going to be later on. Phil wanted to take a nap. I wanted to get some coffee and just like go for a walk, just like decompress. It was such a long, stressful travel day and all that. So that's what we opted to do. We didn't play anymore, even though like we could have played for fun. No one really, like Tyler didn't really want to keep. Well, he was indifferent, I guess. Phil really wanted to take a nap, and I didn't want to keep playing Bosk if I didn't have to. So the decision was made that way. Then we get into pool 1 here. What did I end up playing? So I'm assuming a lot of you know by now. I ended up on Anakin Data Vault. I spent a lot of time playing decks for the 3v3, trying to figure out that event. And the decks I was choosing between for BIATL were Rey Data Vault, Yoda Red Force, Anakin Data Vault, and even in the back of my mind was Han 1 Green because of how well Phil has been doing internally. And I literally packed all of those decks because I was even flying. I had Anakin as my main deck by that point. I felt like it was the strongest deck out of all of them. Maybe with Han making me question so many things because of how well Phil was doing internally, but I really didn't feel like that was the greatest deck for me. So, and I felt like Anakin was just a way better version of Rey at this point. Rey was like not even really a consideration. I only brought it because Tim told me to, and he was like, "It's your girl, like just bring it." But I was really never planning on playing Rey. So my plan was to play Anakin in pool 1, and then if it didn't go well, I was going to play Yoda Red Force in pool 2. So a lot of that testing for this deck was done by Grumpy Elephant. I played a lot and had some input here and there, but I was struggling so much with finding a good third deck for the 3v3 that he did a lot of the heavy lifting. He played the deck at Galactics as well, so I will say internally, like we did commit a lot of resources to that deck for Galactics. I played a lot of that deck in July. And so coming into this, we kind of knew what cards we didn't love from Galactics. And he made day 3, got some lightsabers. He was in that top 64 pool of players that got those. So he did really well with the deck there, but we knew it wasn't working. So it was pretty easy to pull out those pieces and put in the best cards from set 6, of which there are a lot for these colors. And I think that's kind of how we whittled it down. We obviously tried all the other stuff. The deck went through many changes, but he really did a lot of the heavy lifting for set 6 specifically, because I didn't. I was so focused on 3v3 because that was like such a hard puzzle to solve. But I'm not going to go into too many specifics here, outside of just wanting to shout him out for the work he put in. In another life, I would have force failed to play something else, so I could have played this in our team. But because he didn't get to play it and he was traveling all that way from Europe, I wanted him to play what he wanted to play, and that was how I won green. And in hindsight, he also recognizes it probably wasn't the best choice for the 3v3, but it is what it is. So I played Anakin Data Vault. This was the list. Tomorrow we'll probably be publishing a big old chat on this deck with McClunky Gaming, so be on the lookout on their channel for that. It'll probably be collabed here, so maybe you see it here as well, but that'll be tomorrow. We're going to go in depth on all these choices, why there are a couple of differences between my list, Grumpy's list, and Tyler's list. It's actually kind of hilarious the way it all shook out, but I will save all of those stories for tomorrow because I want the other two to chime in on it. It's incredible, honestly. When you hear how this all came to be, it's somewhat unbelievable, but if you know Tyler, it's not that unbelievable. Anyway, so this is the deck. It's out there. It's been out there. I've been getting tons of DMs about it, right from literally Saturday. The moment I finished first, I was getting, and the lists weren't out, I was getting DMs from people asking for the list. But when the event ended, I worked with Noxum from Sue Competitive Hub to make sure that before I left the store on Sunday that all their lists were released, and they were promptly released the moment the event ended. I went up to the judges and I asked him to check those boxes for the community, and he easily and gladly obliged. So shout out to the judges and Cards HQ for letting that happen so fast. All I had to do was, hey, we want this as a community, and he said, okay, click, and Noxum then posted them shortly before he went to bed. So this is the list. It's been out. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Please check out that video and support McClunky. But I do want to talk about my run. Here we go. So round one. So this event, as I said, was super fun for me because even though I, as you'll see, played a lot of my teammates, I've never actually played any of these people that I played in an official match, which is super cool. And I really enjoyed that. So I ended round one against Sabine ECL, playing against teammate Hannons, aka Will. Check out his YouTube channel. He's been doing content on this game forever. And I got super lucky in game two. Game one was kind of a stomp by him. Game two, we both have lethal on board, and I put him in check in like a million different ways. ECL's gone. His only out is for a cause because he has 0 units, and of course he has the for a cause, and he reveals, and he needs a hit, a full sweep. I'm at 29 with a bunch of units and a big Anakin, and he's at 20, whatever. So he plays the for a cause, and he hits Jar Jar Binks, timely intervention, like another for a cause or something. So he had a triple whiff when he could only afford 0. So even just the one Jar Jar was enough, but Sir Jar Jar Binks showed himself twice, and so did timely intervention. Game 3 was not really close. I was able to stabilize pretty quickly and take that one, but this could have been an 0-2. Will played really well and just got unlucky by the way his deck shook out. Then I played against Symbiote, who I believe is with Late Night Gaming. He was on Yoda Red Force. We had the best time playing against each other. We've kind of known each other in passing. A lot of my teammates really like him, and now I'm a huge fan. It was just an enjoyable banter. But in testing, I knew this matchup wasn't particularly close anymore. I didn't really lose to Anakin Data Vault because, again, we've been testing this deck for months and months on Yoda Red Force unless I bricked. But the new tools were going to make it really hard, and the loss of Force Throw. So, and that came to be. We had a really long game one. I ended up taking that in the end, and game two was not particularly close at all. Um, yeah, that was how that went. And then Quinlan Tarkentown for round three, which was Carlos Apodaca, who was also with Late Night Gaming, I believe. This also wasn't close at all. I think this one was over in like 15 minutes, maybe 20 max. Um, yeah, nobody bricked. Uh, my deck did the thing, and he tried to play around Bounty Hunter Quarry a lot, just couldn't do it, and that was that. Then I played against Grumpy Elephant in the mirror match, and every time I play against Grumpy in person, he knows how to stack my deck. So I don't understand it, but I never draw top end against him. And he drew Queen and Kellerin on curve in both games, and that was it. It kind of smoked me. So shout out to his Jedi Mind Tricks on my deck. Then I ended up against Bonta Network's Crispy. Again, someone I have known about through mutuals for a real long time. We've interacted at Portland, probably. I think that might have been the first time we really interacted. And just a great guy. And we had so much fun. This was probably the best of three I played, because like we both started to understand our styles pretty quickly, and on the thinky turns I could see him going through all the options, and just had some really fun banter with him. Like, the deck is, at the end of the day, a pretty, I'm gonna move myself here, it's a pretty heavy math deck. There's a lot of breakpoints that you have to think about when you're playing Anakin Data Vault well, and I think he realized that after game two, uh, even after game one, honestly. And I could see him doing a lot of math. And at one point, he commented, "I really hate how much you're making me think." And I said, "That is why I'm here." Uh, and I ended up taking this one. Some really cool plays I'll talk about tomorrow. Sabine ECL was on stream against the Colorado Cantina crew. Melee's name is Kitsai. We had good banter. He unfortunately opened terribly game one. Turn one play was Jar Jar Binks into Sabine, of all things. So I got to kill for free and then live and then kill his next thing. And it was just like very over. Game two was a little bit better by him, but again, these 25, I ran into obviously a lot of 25 HP bases, and they're not particularly hard for this deck to beat. Sabine Yellow was round seven. Tower number nine, another teammate, unfortunately. This was a chaotic round with a lot of repairing because the melee wasn't set up to do power pairings. So eventually, this is, whenever all was said and done, this is who I ended up against. And there was some chaos around intentional draws, who could draw in, who could not. It got very confusing because of all the repairs, and eventually there were some draws that were done. Me and Tower drew. He had some emergency work thing come up, but we didn't realize he'd be 100% out if he did that. Other tables then drew because we drew, which they're not supposed to do. They're supposed to make that decision independently of themselves. So eventually we had Tower run back. He was on his way back to the hotel to deal with work. The judges graciously allowed us to undo everything, but everyone had to play. It was the compromise we came up with because it was really quite chaotic. So he came back, beat me in about 5 minutes in game one, and then I was able to clutch up game two and three to take that. So that was the theme. I feel like game ones were a little bit trickier for me for some reason. I think only Crispy I won game one in the two ones I had. So anyway, that was it. I didn't have to play the Yoda Red that I brought. I had made it into the top 16. I was first after Swiss with this deck. Grumpy, despite beating me, had an easier road, so he ended up second in Swiss. And yeah, we're just super proud of both of us for the way we played, for the ideas we did share and have, and for him for testing so heavily, because he was playing this in a 3v3 as well. And shout out to Team Glitter Boys. They did make the top 8 in 3v3 with their comp, which included the Anakin Data Vault, and our Han 4 Tarkentown Brew, and Getsu Zach, his beloved Talisman Yellow, which is probably the other best deck of the format. If you know, you know. I definitely wouldn't have played that particular comp if I could redo the 3v3 again, but Anakin Data Vault obviously would be in our comp. The other two decks just would be different. Then top 16 on Sunday when the dust settled. All three of us who took Anakin Data Vault got in to the top 16. I played Chrono from KTOD. Shout out to CJ. And we never played before. Obviously, I've interacted because I feel pretty closely to a bunch of their guys these days. I've played uh, Bobby Sapphire, Mike Gem a bunch of times. Ophir is relatively local to New York City. Comes to Hex or used to come to Hex more often anyway for a lot of our limited events. Um, Alexander the Greatest. Shout out to him and just everybody over there. Really, like every time I see them, even when I wasn't on McClunky, like they were always so nice to me. So it was a pleasure to finally play Chrono. He was one of the few I haven't played, and yeah, this was not particularly close. This was a matchup I was pretty familiar with. Obviously, I'd played Crispy earlier. Their deck list seemed to be pretty close to the same. Chrono had commented he thought initiative mattered. When he had initiative, the game was over faster. Um, it's just really hard for Hantu. Initiative matters for Anakin a lot, right? His units can trade up, so it does somewhat matter, but it's really just the way the deck works. It's not the be all end all. Um, yeah, so obviously taking a surprise deck is going to really help against the really good players sometimes, and that's kind of what happened here. I think he just didn't realize the breakpoints fast enough, and that's something he commented on as well in our specifically game one, which was closer. Then anyway, top 8 we move on, and all three of us won our top 8 matches. Grumpy won, Tyler won, and I won. Unfortunately, the bracket is the way it was, and Tyler, Baby Mersing, and I had to play. This one, obviously, initiative does matter quite a bit because it is a mirror match and it's Anakin. So I won initiative because I had the higher seed. So I picked to take initiative in both matches. Um, and My plays were pretty awkward in this one. And game one, I had to Gungi a General's Blade, which I don't love doing because I just get blown out by a Constable. He didn't have it. Was able to trade, obviously, pretty quickly off the Blade, but I was able to get enough advantage off of that. Yeah, game two, he had initiative, drew the top end. I drew it later, ended up losing pretty quickly. And game three was a similar story. Initiative mattered here. I had a better opening into the top end and to a red 5, which is a very important card in the mirror. Took that down, moved on to top 4, and had our rematch with Carlos Apodaca from Swiss. And this was kind of the opposite. I mean, I beat him, like I said, very quickly. And this was the first best of 3 where I got data vaulted pretty hard. Turn 1 play, game 1 was an Outer Rim Constable into a ping deck. Really tough. I felt way more confident in my hand game 2, but he drew kind of the perfect curve to win that one with Han on curve and blasters and kind of everything he needed to do really well there. Just wasn't enough. So unfortunately, my run ended in top 4. And so did Grumpy's. He ended up losing to Philip. So it was the craziest thing about this, and we'll go to the next slide here. If you look at the stats, little blurry, apologies for that. It's a quick screenshot I did. Anakin Data Vault, this is just pool 1. There's only 2 of us, right? Grumpy and I. We had an 86% win rate between the 2 of us in Swiss. It's actually 92, I believe, if you take out the mirror. So my only loss was to him, and I believe his only loss was to Han1 Green, another competitor who made the top 16, who Tyler then ended up beating in the top 16. So and even that guy admitted he got very lucky against Eric to clutch that one out. He like top double bamboozle, and that was like literally his only line to win. But still, look at the rest of these win rates of the most played decks: 47, 41, 50, 50, 63, 71 on Sabine. Oh, this Han1 Green, right? Like that's impressive. 62 on Quinlan, also impressive. This is unheard of. Like 86% win rate on a deck in a field like this, full of top 4 galactics, top 4 regionals, winners of multiple PQs. Like this field was stacked full of the best players in the world. Um, this, overall between two pools, you're probably looking at like 150, 160 players. Because not everyone did both pools. A lot of people did do both pools, and both events were over 100. So I would assume there's roughly maybe 30 people, 40 people difference between the pools. So I would say it wasn't a clean like 128 cap, 128 cap. There was 256 unique players. I would say there was probably about 150, 160, but none of them were free wins. Like everyone who showed up for these 1v1s are talented Star Wars players, have bragging rights for all of their successes. Like this wasn't just like the local guy who doesn't really play anymore for the most part. Almost everyone was like multiple PQ wins, impressive finishes at sectors and regionals and the galactic championships. So for Eric and I in our own pool to have a 92% win rate when you take out the mirror match is kind of crazy. I then, if you don't count the mirror, I was 6-0 in the eliminate the round, and then if you take away Eric's win, he was 6-1, 5-1. His loss being to the Holland Green. So combined, we were 11-1. And if you look then further to Tyler in pool 2, he went 6-1. So combined, we were 17-2, which is crazy. And then if you look at Top Cut, I had to like beat Tyler. So again, another mirror match. We both won. Eric won, and then Eric lost to Philip, another teammate who has been playing against this deck. So is way more familiar with how to beat it than anybody else because we've been testing this internally for weeks and months if you go back to Galactics. Um, so that just shows the power of this deck. So again, check out our video tomorrow on McClunky Gaming. We're doing a very in-depth masterclass of sorts, if you will, not to steal from Luby in the title, but that's what it'll be. Yeah, and I just can't say enough about how much fun this event was. So big shout out to the stream team, Jeff Creasy, Blonde Sabine. Incredible coverage. The switch to the triple cam was such a good setup. There was never a dull moment on stream. Shout out to Josh Schneider, the voice, the icon that he is. Shout out to all the players, all my opponents. Everyone was super chill. No one was salty. Everyone was just so supportive of each other. Really, it sounds cheesy to say, but like that's why this community is so great. And especially at this kind of a level, sometimes you encounter just awkward interactions, and that just didn't happen. You show up, you're hugging the other teams, and having good banter, and I just uh, had so much fun. Win or lose, I really, like I said, I brought a second deck. I did not expect Anakin to carry me like it did. I was confident, but I brought a second deck, so I was not expecting this top 4 finish in this type of a field. I was hoping to win, obviously, but even on Underwhelming Barrage, if you listen to that the other day, I was on it before BIATL, and my prediction was a Han would win the event. Knowing how good Philip is, knowing how good Han is, all of the Hans, it was a safe bet to hedge, but I was the only one who said something like that. So the other people really didn't have faith in a Han 2 or Han 1 the way I did, but I wasn't even hedging my own bet. I was more hedging the leaders, but I was confident, and it worked out for me in the end. So yeah, what's next for me? If you've been watching or listening to things, you might know that this is my last event for a while. I'm going back to sea. I'm a singer and an actor, and I was offered a contract that I felt like I couldn't turn down. So I will be back on the Norwegian sky soon. More than likely. It's not totally official yet, but you heard it here first. And I'll be sailing the Caribbean and Europe out of London for the most part for the next 9 months. So that's a big bummer. It's very bittersweet to be missing out on the rest of regionals and sectors, I already had hotels booked. I've had those refunded. Thankfully, I was able to do really well in set 5, and I did qualify for Galactics. So I'm going to attempt to go. That requires some hoops for me to jump through with the cruise. And that job, it's a 7-day a week job. It's nonstop. And that's why it's hard. I did it for 7 years before this, if you don't know my history. So it's not my first cruise ship. I'm going back for year 8. And I'm just gonna miss everyone a lot. So this was a real. It was even extra special to go out like this, to have this kind of new deck premiere for everyone to be excited about. To, like I said, play against such great people, such great players for the first time. Like I've never played against any of these players before in an official match. So it felt like the stars aligned to create a really special weekend for me. And I just, want to shout out everyone who made that possible, from the stream team, from the players, from the store. Card HQ was great. And yeah, my teammates. I mean, we had just the best time. We're just rooting for each other's successes, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. We thankfully got to sleep in because we bombed out in the 3v3. Tyler, Philip, and I, we were in the same hotel room. And Brandon was in our hotel room, and he was part of our top 8 3v3 team. So he woke up, left to go, and we all woke up as their matches were starting. And obviously we were stressing so much about how are they going to seed everything. Like, ooh, this is a really tough lineup for what we threw out there. Like, Anakin's probably pretty good into some of these things, but not great into all of them. Like, how are we going to navigate this? So when we woke up and they decided to sit Zach first, which was one of the lines we thought of, but wasn't our favorite line for it. Um, when they put Hantu Blue with Reflex in that seat, uh, Tyler jumped into Phillips and I's bed, and we were like 3 girls at a pajama party, just literally jumping up and down in our bed because we knew we had just won the top 8 match as a team. And we were confident in the others winning as well. Um, and that's what happened. Thousand Yellow really does good into Hantu Blue. Zach pulled that out, and the matches fell as they did. But that was just a really special moment, and just the rest of the weekend as well. There were other moments watching Phil win the whole thing on Han1 Green. Just incredible. Our 3v3 team, despite the poor performance, once we all got what we needed, Phil got a nap, never lost again. Crazy. I got some coffee, made top 4. Tyler did Tyler things and made top 8. All 3 of us made the top 8 of a really stacked event, and I'm just proud of everyone. Um, and I'm gonna miss everyone. I'm gonna miss everyone from Bobby Sapphire to Tim and Claire and Eric and Tyler and Phil and Sean and all the locals in New York City. Lewis, Tony, Ben, Toby. Just we can go down the line. Bobster. I mean, it's just been a great time. Alex, my Milanos, my Spanish husband. He doesn't know it, but that's how I view him. I just have had such a great time with everyone. With Kieran, and I'm not dying, I know, but 9 months is a long time to be missing in person, and I've really enjoyed this community. When I stopped doing cruise ships 2.5 years ago, I really thought it was kind of for good, and I really wanted some sort of like roots back in on land, and this was one of the first things I did was like try and find some sort of card game. I started in Lorcana and absolutely hated the game, so I dropped that pretty quickly. Star Wars came out shortly after. I was in a off-Broadway show, so I wasn't able to play all the time, but I would go before my matinees on Saturday. Couldn't even finish the local. Would just do 2 rounds, then run to do a show. Um, so, that's where I met Dylan for the first time at that first Spark of Rebellion pre-release. And yeah, everyone who's active in that in our New York City Discord. Um, I could name all of your names, but we'll leave it at who I've named. Um, It's been a true joy to hang out with you every week on the Discord multiple times a week. So I'll still have an online presence. The internet, thankfully, at sea has gotten a lot better since I stopped doing it. Shout out to Elon Musk. The only nice thing I'll ever say about him in my life, because I hate that man. Starlink changed the game for people who are traveling like this. Um, so you'll see me around online on the Discord, but I unfortunately will not be at any more events for the foreseeable future. We'll see what happens after Galactics. So maybe in set 8, 9, I come back and do some. But thank you to everyone who's ever had a match against me. It's been really, really, really fun over the last year to play. Even the salty ones, whether it be me being salty or you being you, you know who you are. It all creates a great story at the end of the day, and this was some of the most fun I've had in a long time. So, anyway, that's the end of my spiel. Shout out to everyone on McClunky. Yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, hope you all enjoy the meta. Enjoy playing against Anakin Data Vault while I run away and no longer have to deal with it. It's very good. And check out the video tomorrow for a more in-depth deck tech breakdown of everything, how it came to be. If I forgot a shout out, it's not because I don't love you. It's because I'm tired. And staring at Discord, those are the names I saw on the corner of my eye. But it's been really fun. All right, until I see you maybe in July. See you later.